A man dead on the floor of his mother-in-law's house, and a wife claiming she pulled the trigger because he was coming right at her. That was the story Ashley Benefield gave police in September 2020. It sounded like a textbook case of self-defense, until investigators actually looked at the physical evidence. The forensics told a completely different story. Doug Benefield wasn't shot from the front, he was shot from the side. The trajectory didn't match a violent, face-to-face struggle. It matched a man who was standing still or turning away. When detectives dug into the couple's past, they realized Ashley's self-defense claim wasn't new. She had used the exact same allegations of abuse in family court 2 years earlier. A judge threw them out, stating they didn't contain a single scintilla of truth. She lost the legal battle, so she moved the fight somewhere the stakes were permanent. But to understand how a custody dispute escalated into a fatal shooting, you have to look at what tied them together in the first place. A whirlwind 13-day romance and the disastrous collapse of a ballet company. Ashley Byers was 24 when she met 54-year-old widower Doug Benefield at a political fundraiser in Florida in August 2016. Both were Trump supporters. 13 days after they met, they were married. Not 13 months, 13 days. Doug was a serial entrepreneur out of Charleston, always chasing the next venture. In 2017, the two of them launched something ambitious, the American National Ballet, built around a roster of nearly 45 professional dancers and administrators, including a name dancers you might recognize, Rasta Thomas. Doug served as CEO. Ashley was founding executive director. It fell apart fast. Within months, the company laid off almost half its dancers. By some counts, 23 people, cut only weeks into the season. Thomas later sued, alleging the company owed him more than $325,000 in unpaid wages and broken promises. And around that same time, Ashley went on maternity leave, then publicly distanced herself from the company entirely, saying it made her sick to watch what had happened to it. Ashley was pregnant, and when the ballet company collapsed, she left Charleston and moved back to Florida to live with her mother, while Doug stayed behind, now fighting for access to a daughter he'd helped conceive but barely got to raise. That's when the paperwork started. Between 2017 and 2019, Ashley filed a string of court motions seeking sole custody. She accused Doug of physically abusing her. She accused him of trying to poison her. She even accused him of poisoning his first wife, the woman who died before Ashley ever entered his life. Serious claims, the kind that, if true, would end a father's custody rights overnight. A Manatee County family court judge reviewed them and rejected every one. The judge's written ruling didn't hedge. It said Ashley's claims lacked a scintilla of truth. That's not a soft dismissal. That's a judge on the record calling a domestic violence claim fabricated. Ashley kept the case moving anyway. Therefore, by 2020, she and Doug had reached an uneasy truce. They both relocate to Maryland, but live separately, co-parenting from a distance. On September 27th, Doug flew to Florida to help her load a U-Haul for the move. He was helping her pack. That's the last verified fact before everything changed. Investigators later reviewed phone records between the two of them, including messages where Doug sent Ashley Bible verses.
Do you remember your last conversation with your dad?
He tried to call me, but I didn't pick up because I was at work. I said, I'll call you later. Never called him because I assumed everything would be all right. I'd get a Bible verse next morning and I'd call him and everything would be okay.
The very last exchange the state could recover was mundane. Doug texted that he was on his way, driving the truck. That message went out at 5:32 in the afternoon. It was the final communication anyone has on record between them. The public assumed that this is an abusive husband snapped, cornered his wife in a bedroom, and she defended herself. That was Ashley's story to police within an hour of Doug's death. Responding officers looked for the kind of evidence that usually backs up a self-defense claim: torn clothing, defensive injuries, signs of a struggle. According to the sheriff's office, they didn't find it.
He said, "You're fucking done."
The medical examiner testified that Doug died from a gunshot wound to the chest that tore through his lung and caused internal bleeding. And when the defense pressed him on cross-examination, asking whether every homicide counts as a crime, The examiner drew a careful distinction. Ruling a death a homicide is a medical finding, which essentially just means it describes how someone died, not whether anyone committed a crime doing it. An FDLE crime lab analyst testified that for the fatal shot to land the way it did, the weapon had to be positioned to Doug's right side, not in front of him the way you'd expect if he were advancing toward her in an attack. A side shot suggests distance or movement away, not a man lunging at close range.
Did you find injuries on the outside of his body?
I did, yes.
And where were they? And we'll talk about them in detail, but generally, where were they?
There was an injury to the right side of his chest, there was an injury to his right shoulder, and there was an injury to his right leg.
And did he have any injuries to his face or head?
No. Well, he did have to his head, yes, I'm sorry, not his face.
And what type of injury was that?
The injury to his head was what we would typically call in medical terminology, we'd call an abraded contusion. That's a swollen and scraped bruise. And it was on the very back of his scalp at what we'd call the occipital protuberance, or the lump at the very back of the head.
And what would that location of the projectile, based on where the entrance wound was and the where you found the projectile, did you determine a path of travel that projectile took through Mr. Benefield's body?
I did.
And what was the path of travel?
So the path of travel was one of entering the right side of the chest, striking the fifth rib on the right side, the right lung, the 10th vertebral body on the in the middle of the spine, then the left lung, the 10th rib, and then the soft tissues of the back until it stopped where it is. And that path then, if one were standing upright and straight, would be from the right side toward the left, from the front towards the back, and essentially horizontal. In other words, without angling upward or downward. And again, that's relative to a standing upright position.
Yes, sir. And you said that it struck his ribs and his lungs and his vertebral...
His vertebral body.
Thank you.
The spine.
His spine.
Yes.
And would that injury have been immediately fatal?
Probably not.
And would it have incapacitated, if you can say, incapacitated Mr. Benefield quickly?
I think it would have incapacitated him quickly. Whether or not it was immediate, I don't think one can predict.
Thank you, sir. What, if anything, does the absence of stippling tell you? Specifically, we'll talk about the leg first.
The absence reflects the same principle in either injury, and what it means is that typically when the weapon was discharged, it was far enough away so that the unburned gunpowder fragments, which are ejected with the bullet, had a chance to lose velocity and fall away prior to striking the skin. In general, typically that means that the muzzle of the weapon was more than 3 feet away from the target, or the skin in this case. But any more precise determinations require the test firing of a weapon, same weapon or same style of weapon with the same ammunition, to try and get more specific information.
And did you determine the manner of death in this case?
I did.
And what was that?
I determined the manner of death to be homicide. Yes, so the weapon did have to be in front of him, but even more so it had to be to his right side.
And based on your training and experience, is it typical that if somebody were to fall backwards, that their legs would go above their heads when falling?
Without the intervention of something to fall over, an ottoman, a chair, or something like that, it seems unlikely.
This is where the prosecution's real argument started to take shape, and it wasn't about that one night at all. It was about the 3 years before it. Assistant State Attorney Suzanne O'Donnell told the jury in her opening statement that this was a woman who decided, early in her pregnancy, that she wanted to raise her daughter alone, and that she was determined to keep Doug from ever having visitation. Prosecutors framed the shooting as the final move in a custody war Ashley was losing on paper. She tried claiming abuse in family court, rejected. She tried claiming a poisoning conspiracy, rejected. So when Doug was no longer just a legal obstacle, but standing alone in a house with her, the state argued, she resolved it permanently.
Domestic violence is absolutely a real problem. There are many, many women around that are in horrendous situations. Women, and sometimes men, that are in situations where they're being abused and beaten horribly on a regular basis. People that feel like they cannot get out, they have no way to get out. That is not this defendant, and it never was. Now, some of those women who are victims of horrible domestic violence may be justified in a situation where they have to use self-defense to kill their abuser. Absolutely, there can be situations where that might be a valid point, but not for this defendant. This defendant used domestic violence and allegations of it to make progress on her goal. And her goal was she wanted sole custody of that child at all costs. And to understand that, I think we need to go through the background, even though this case really is about what happened in that house. What happened in that house, the last moments of Doug Benefield's life. But we need to go through the timeline to see the tenor of this relationship and to see how it unfolded. The bottom line is you have to decide at the moment that she pulled the trigger in that bedroom, was it reasonable and was it necessary?
In July 2023, ahead of trial, Ashley's defense attempted something called a stand your ground hearing. Essentially, that's a pre-trial motion asking a judge to throw the whole case out because Florida law protects people who use force in genuine self-defense, which basically just means if the defense wins that hearing, there's no trial at all. Doug's death would be ruled legally justified before a jury ever heard a single word. It didn't work. After a 2-day hearing, Judge Stephen White denied the motion, writing that the evidence proved clearly and convincingly that Ashley was not justified in using deadly force against Doug that day. That side entry wound mattered again here. A judge, reading the same physical evidence, reached a conclusion that echoed the family court judge from years earlier. Twice now, Ashley's own account hadn't held up on paper. That's 2 separate judges in 2 separate proceedings, 3 years apart, looking at Ashley's own account of events and rejecting it both times. When the full trial began in July 2024, the defense, led by attorney Neil Taylor, didn't dispute that Ashley fired the fatal shot. Instead, they leaned entirely on painting her as a terrified victim of ongoing abuse and deceit. Their star witness was Ashley herself. On the stand, she described Doug's face turning red, the veins in his neck bulging, as he blocked her from leaving the bedroom. "I was scared to death. I thought he was going to kill me," she told the jury. There was nowhere to go, she said. She was trapped in her own house.
What was different at that moment, Ashley, than at any time in your prior relationship with Doug?
He had never actually hit me before.
What did you do?
I ran
Where?
to my room
Why?
because I was scared.
Ashley, did you have anything in your room that could protect you?
I had my gun.
Did you grab the gun?
Yes.
As you're grabbing the gun, what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the door hitting the doorstop.
As if it is flung open?
Yes.
And what do you see, Ashley, when you look up?
Doug was standing in the doorway. His face was red. Like the veins were bulging in his neck. The way he was looking at me, it didn't even look like Doug. His eyes were black.
What does he do at that point?
I held the gun like in front of me, and I said, "Stop!" And he like turned and he got into this it was like a fighting stance. He I got low and he started like moving his arms and his hands around.
What were you expecting when you were holding the gun out in front of you and you told him to stop?
I thought when he saw it he would leave.
Did he?
No.
At that point, Ashley, what are you thinking?
I thought he was gonna kill me.
Tell us what happens next.
He started coming towards me, and then he lunged at me, and I started pulling the trigger. And he just kept coming. And I remember trying to move to get away from him, but he kept coming at me.
Ashley, would you tell us why, if you're holding a loaded firearm, you were attempting to move away?
I was trying to get away from him. I was terrified.
You're firing. He keeps advancing. What happens next?
It was like his feet slipped out from under him and his legs went up in the air.
When Doug hits the floor, what's your immediate reaction?
I ran to get help.
He told me I was lucky that he punched walls instead of me.
Are there any incidences in particular, Ashley, that stand out to you?
Yes.
Tell us, please.
We were having an argument, and he came at me like he was gonna hit me. And our dog, Sully, jumped up in between us, and he punched him in the face so hard that he knocked him out.
This day, you weren't concerned about him coming over.
No, I knew he was coming.
Okay. And when he came over, your mother and Emerson went to the park.
I believe they were headed there. I'm not sure. I think they were down the driveway or on the sidewalk, something like that. They were on their way there.
You weren't so afraid that you wanted your mother to stay there and watch.
No, we were just packing to move.
Okay, so you weren't afraid.
I definitely didn't expect this to happen.
So it was okay with you that your mother left?
Yeah, at that time.
Okay.
He came and slammed the door open. He was standing in the doorway. He said, "You're f***ing done."
He said, "You're f***ing done." And that made you fear for your life?
Yeah.
The entire dynamic of the trial shifted the moment she said it. But on cross-examination, prosecutor Suzanne O'Donnell had Ashley step down from the witness stand and physically reenact the attack for the jury, forcing her account to hold up not just as testimony, but as a demonstration the jury could watch in real time, next to physical evidence that didn't match a struggle. The defense also called Faith Brown, the family law attorney who had represented Ashley in the earlier custody proceedings, to testify about the history between Ashley and Doug in family court, the same history the prosecution was using to argue premeditation. Public opinion had already been building for years before that jury was ever seated. Doug's daughter from his first marriage, Eva Benefield, had spent much of the case processing her grief in public, posting updates on TikTok under the handle Eva the Freak and Diva, to a following that grew past 500,000 people. Her posts were raw and at times darkly funny, an unusual combination for a grieving daughter to pull off, and it worked. Public sympathy anchored firmly with Doug's family long before opening statements. During the trial, the court even had to determine whether Eva's TikTok posts and news interviews violated the rules that keep witnesses from discussing testimony before they take the stand. On the other side, a small group gathered near the courthouse to support Ashley's claim of self-defense, including Ashley's mother and her and Doug's 6-year-old daughter, Emerson, who told a reporter she felt like she was standing up for the right thing. After closing arguments, the jury deliberated for nearly 7 hours before reaching a verdict late in the evening. Not second-degree murder, the original charge. Manslaughter, the lesser-included offense. A conviction, but not the maximum one prosecutors had asked for. At sentencing that December, Ashley's attorneys asked Judge White for a downward departure, citing the alleged abuse in the relationship. He denied it. Ashley was sentenced to 20 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation. 30 years total, tied to this case, for a marriage that lasted 13 days before the wedding and roughly a year before the separation.
My ultimate conclusion, Ms. Benefield, is that this is not a downward departure case. So with that said, the sentence of the court will be as follows. I'm going to sentence you to 20 years in Florida State Prison. That's to be followed by 10 years of probation. Upon your release, and the Florida State Prison was, of course, with all credit for time served, you must initially report to the Bradenton Department of Corrections. Based upon the testimony of Dr. Russell today regarding you suffering from and being diagnosed with PTSD, the court is going to order as a condition of your probation that you obtain a mental health evaluation at your expense within 60 days of beginning your probation.
Eva Benefield gave the victim impact statement. She said she never believed Ashley showed genuine remorse. State Attorney Ed Brodsky, whose office prosecuted the case, put it plainly afterward. This was someone who decided to take the law into her own hands, and that was the line she crossed too far. Ashley's defense has since filed motions for a new trial and for her release pending appeal, arguing the judge was unfair to their client. As of now, she remains in custody, serving the sentence Judge White handed down. If you take one thing from this case, take this. Family court rulings don't disappear. Judges write down what they find, and those findings follow people. Ashley's 2018 custody ruling wasn't buried. It resurfaced in the 2023 Stand Your Ground hearing, then again at the 2024 trial, because paper trails don't expire just because you'd rather they did. If you're navigating a custody dispute right now, document everything. A judge's written skepticism about you today can become a prosecutor's exhibit tomorrow. Nothing here is legal advice. Everything comes from public record. If you are facing a legal situation, please consult a licensed attorney. These cases are not unreal. These things happen every single day, as in here. Doug was the victim of murder framing.
She had 3 guns loaded, one in the pantry, one in a laundry basket down on the floor, and then one in a closet in different rooms.
Loaded.
And
there's a baby.
There's a baby walking around that is a toddler now and can reach into a hamper and, you know.
Oh my God.
The stupidity of that is fucking
yeah.
ghastly. Yeah.
And then I guess he was in the room and she shot him, didn't hit him enough to kill him immediately. So it was like, I think he hung on for about 2 hours before he fully passed, but she waited 15 minutes. She went over to the neighbor's house. There was like 15 minutes in between him getting shot and the cops getting called. Before the cops even arrived, the detective arrived on scene, her lawyer was already there. Yeah, she just kind of left him to bleed out. I think she was hoping that he was going to bleed out so he couldn't say anything.
But what if I told you a case that framed the wife as an assaulter to the husband and his girlfriend? It's in your screen right now.